Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, March 31st, 2023, and this is episode 717 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it is a Friday, so it's a Homestead Happening show. I was actually kind of looking forward to doing the whole Homestead Happening show on Tuesday, but then the universe told me Nicole shall have no internet today. So now you get like 2 episodes worth of Homestead Happenings, and we've had a lot going on here in the background since I got back from Self-Reliance Festival. I was planning to drive to Camden today, and then I noticed that we have severe weather coming across Tennessee again, and I did opt not to drive to Tennessee to pick up a load of stuff to return to the Holler in preparation of my spring workshop, because guess what? The first rule of modern survival, I'm pretty sure Jack Spirko has said this, but if he hasn't, he would, is survival. And one of the great ways to survive things is to not make stupid decisions and go driving around in tornadic activity. So, and we're going to have some of that. It looks like it says highly likely. Oh, and I didn't know that was going on. John's like, so you're probably not coming today, right? And I was like, no, it looks fine. And then for some reason, my phone thought I was in California. There is not tornadic activity up for grabs in California. So good morning, everybody who's joined the live stream. Today, what we're going to talk about is new chicks on the homestead, stuff we're doing with the sheep, the snake incident. I'm going to give you a pretty big garden update. I am really excited about where the garden's going, because when we had the deep freeze right before SRF, I was like, screw it. If it dies, it dies. And a lot of stuff didn't. Thank you, Bijerine02, for saying I look amazing today. I might not feel quite recovered yet from SRF, so I don't feel amazing, but I feel good. I feel good. That's right. Getting back into things. We are also going to talk about rabbit math. Rabbit math is a big one, right? So those are all up for grabs today. Before I jump into that, though, I wanted to talk about our featured event of today, and it is the Self-Reliance Festival, the one that just happened. That's right. We have the recordings for sale at selfreliancefestival.com, and if you were unable to go and want to see the sessions, head on over to there. What you will get right now is an email with a download, and it takes you to links to the raw video of what was happening from the tent. We have 2 stages. We have tent and garage. Tent ones, we have all of the video for, and we are now in the process of going through session by session and doing an edit of those down into all of the things that y'all are going to see. So those will be done by the end of April. You'll start with raw access, and then after that, guess what? You totally get individual videos of all the stuff. So if you were at Self-Reliance Festival, you are on my email list, unless you unsubscribed. And my email list for Self-Reliance Festival, if you were at the festival, we sent you a special coupon code for a discount on those digital passes. But if not, it's a super awesome deal. $95, selfreliancefestival.com. Also, I wanted to thank today's show sponsor, Agorist Tax Advice. Do you want to give Uncle Sam a few of your hard-earned dollars? Do you wonder if the time has come to set up your LLC? Now, I get questions like this all the time. S Corp, LLC, C Corp, like, what should I do, man? And the answer is, I don't know. But Matt Sersley at Agorist Tax Advice can analyze all your long-term goals, what you're doing now, look at how you're tracking things, and help you make the decisions about the best way to run your finances through either a sole proprietorship or leave them as they are, or if you maybe want to start a company, and what you can track risks associated with taking the legal tax reductions, right? Tax write-offs, and make those decisions so you know what you're doing. He has a broad knowledge of business, finance, real estate and rentals, end-of-life planning, and a whole bunch more. All of that's over at agorasttaxadvice.com. And if you want to get a free consultation, agorasttaxadvice.com/LFTN will get you into a really cool situation where you can have a talk with Matt, because he doesn't want to charge people money if they aren't ready for them yet, for example, or if it's not a good fit. So he's really cool about setting things up for that. agristaxadvice.com. With that, we will jump into our first segment of today's show. And guys on the live stream, if you want me to see what you're saying and you want to like ask a question as we're going, throw it first couple words in all caps. Okay, all caps, and then I will know to answer that. And I see that Bijeri, don't know how to say your name, says, regarding SRF, I saw a couple of the streams and I was very impressed with the improved connectivity. You guys are doing great this year. That is just pure luck that the internet has gotten better. But yeah, the streams went well this time. It's and it's really funny because we had tornadic activity the night before, which usually took comms out here. So that was really fun with a hard J. Okay, cool. 30-day reviews isn't here, so I'll cover the bases. That's right. Like and share and all that stuff. So forage. This is where we talk about what I'm finding on the land. And every time I ask Tactical about this, he talks about pasture and grass, which is pretty funny. I was kind of amused because I was like, he's going to say the grass is growing. And he said the grass is growing and it's growing here and it's growing there. And this is because when Tactical thinks about forage, he thinks about sheep, because it was such a brutal start with our flock regarding the fact that no pasture was growing here because no rain. And so he's like super stoked to see the grass growing, because that means sheep food. And that means no money on hay or anything. So the grass is growing. It's spring in Tennessee. We grow grass here. In fact, it's time for me to start identifying where I'm going to get the Timothy bales for next winter, because if I buy them from the first cutting, then I get a really good deal. And I now know how many bales we went through last winter. So that's kind of cool. Dandelion greens are up. Mushrooms are coming on. All of the same early spring stuff of 2 weeks ago is here. I'm totally going to sneeze too, by the way. Maybe not. So that's looking good. I haven't, stinging nettle, by the way, totally harvestable right now. So nothing really new though. Like on the fruit side, we're ways away, and I haven't seen any like interesting wild things. I haven't walked a lot outside this week, although I did do a lot of pasture work this week, and we'll talk about that later in the show. Next segment is livestock. This is where I talk about the critters on the homestead. And I had chicks that were supposed to arrive Wednesday this week, 50 of them. They are meat birds, but they are not leghorns. So was it leghorns that you usually do? The big, anyway, the big ones that grow super fast? Cornish. That's right. Cornish cross. They're not Cornish or roasters or Cornish cross. I have gone with a different variety of slower growing chicken this time, because I'm always a little alarmed with how fast those grow. And I'm interested to see if they taste different. And so we have a 12-week grow out cycle on these birds, and they are redheads. So they're kind of the color of Buff Orpingtons. They're called ginger something. And you would think I would know the breed of chicken, but I'm actually not that concerned about it. I'm concerned about the meat. And I looked into the different things. I have a straight run this time instead of all females. I usually grow all females because they grow slower. Some people grow males because they grow larger. Was not an option this year. So they were supposed to arrive Wednesday, and unfortunately, they did not arrive till this morning. Fortunately, they arrived this morning and not Monday, though. So I was expecting mass destruction, but what the people who ship chickens have started doing is they put this like green gelatin stuff in there that the chicks can eat. And it like as a result, because like feed, if you threw it in the box, it would like powder out everywhere and just be gone. This stuff is like a gelatinous, I think it's called Quick Chick Starter, that you can give them. And that was all gone when they got here, but I only have one derpy chick. We did make a video about it. I will upload the video to YouTube just so people can kind of see the progression of how things went. I was, based on tracking information, not expecting them till tomorrow. So I got the call this morning from the post office, and all I hear is cheeping in the background. It's like, is this Nicole? And I was like, "Yep, we'll come get them right now." And they were laughing because they're like super loud when they're at the post office. And I'm like, "Is this post office or that post office?" Because sometimes they go different places. And they told me who they were. And we went and got them. And I only had one derpy chick. And I held it for a while to get it warmed up. And I usually will just set up a second area for it. I decided with over 50 chicks, it's probably, I haven't counted them, but they usually send a few extras. So there's probably about 52 chicks. What I have found is taking one chick out and taking care of it, they get kind of lonely and they usually don't do well anyway. So I put him in with everybody else, him or her in, and continue to look derpy. And we'll see. I'll be checking the chicks right after this. Tactical's checking them midway through. He just looked at me when I got the call and said, "Good thing I turned the brooder on last night because I wasn't planning to turn it on till today." And I was like, "Yeah, good thing. Let's go measure the temperature." And I turned the temperature way up because it was not warm enough. And they look fine though. So here's how I assess what temperature to keep my brooder at. I carefully measure it with a thermometer, right? Now, I did measure it with a thermometer. It is about 98 degrees in there near the lamp or the heating unit. And then the further away it drops down to 60 by the end. This means that the chicks can move closer or further away based on what their bodies need. But what I like to do is watch the chicks. And if they're all clumped up under there, then it's not warm enough. And if they're spread out, sort of some are eating, some are sleeping, then it's warm enough. If they're all like as far away from the heat source as they can be, then it's too warm. And so what I'll do for the rest of the day is just watch them. Every couple of hours or so, I'll check in. And I already had the first chick try to commit suicide. So I have water with electrolytes in there for them. And they were all over it. And one of them got his foot like wedged under the water. And these are like tiny little mason jar waters. It's not the big waters yet. So he was wedged under there with his foot and couldn't move and was just laying there. I'm like, crap, one got trampled. Oh, cool. Cece just threw up in my shoe. Tactical, if you're hearing this, can you get Cece out of my studio, please? Anyway, so the chick's foot was just caught there. And I hear him coughing outside. I wonder if he knows that I want him to come get my dog out of my room because she's throwing up. And I picked it up and it went toddling off. So luckily I caught that one. What happens at this age is they try to commit suicide, and we try to keep them from committing suicide for a week or two, and then usually things get better. There's a moment in chick development about a week and a half to 2 weeks in where they suddenly go from we drink a little bit of water, we eat a little bit of food, to we drink all the water and we eat all the food. And what will happen is overnight they'll annihilate their water, and you'll put water in and they will trample somebody to death on the way to the water. So I really try to keep extra waters in there about a week after they arrive so that we don't have that incident happen. And I usually will go to the gallon waters from the mason jar sized ones, which is where we start. So the little plastic small ones that you use for the first week or so, you can put a mason jar in those too. And that's good because those plastic things get nasty over time. And so like a mason jar, I can totally sterilize, which I really like. Anyway, the snake. You guys want to hear about the snake, right? Here's the deal. I have a cat door, and usually what happens is cats come in with rodents, eat rodents on my floor, leave their livers there, and I squish those between my bare feet in the morning when I wake up. It's like a cycle we go through. Self-Reliance Festival has a tendency to leave me kind of tired. I have two people who don't want to hear the snake story. Guys, I might not tell the snake story. I'm getting no's in the comments. If I get no's, we're just going to put the snake story off. Need a couple yeses in there. Letty's like, oh, hell no. No to the snakes in the house. One time I was on a conference call and my cat, Nash, came into my office. It wasn't in the house. Oh, I got a yes. And threw a baby copperhead on my desk. And I hung up that call and we dealt with it. Okay, I'm just going to go for it. So Monday, we didn't really get back here till like 3 or 4. Mom and I are wiped out from working the festival. And then there's the drive across the state. And we were just super tired. And I was like, we're just taking anything perishable out of the car. And Letty's going, la, 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 I'm covering my ears. And then we're just going to eat dinner and go to bed early. And tomorrow we'll hit it hard because I've been learning to honor my body's need for rest from time to time. Not all the time, but from time to time. And about 6:30, we're like all sitting in the living room. I'm thinking, do I just go to bed now or do we watch a show or something? All of a sudden, there's this weird cat activity in my kitchen. Like the cat's acting really weird. And mom walks over there. She's like, uh-oh. And it's a snake. And it was a gray rat snake, which when the snake's moving a lot and you're not super familiar with copperheads, you're like, is that a copperhead? Right? So there was a chance it could be a copperhead out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, great, there's a copperhead, like actual snake, 3 feet long in my kitchen. And Tactical was here too. And thus began the dance. There are 2 parts to this dance. Part 1 is keep the animals away from the snake because now everybody's interested in the snake. And I had to get the cat away from it who brought it in, right? And I'm like yelling at the cat, yelling at the dogs, letting the dogs outside. And then there is, I don't want the snake to disappear into my house. So this is just, things like this happen in the country. Like you end up with a weird snake in your house. And so then Tactical goes out, he gets a rake and a pole. And we get a gray bin. And I'm like, do you want to use the snake grabber? He's like, I didn't know there was a snake grabber. I was like, last time I saw it was by the workshop. You want me to go down and get it? And he said, not right now. And so what ensued was trying to get the snake without touching the snake. We still hadn't really identified what it was. And eventually, with the stick and the rake, he gets it into the bucket, and we get the bucket with a lid on it. And I don't know what happened to that. He went and threw it across the road. We actually try not to kill snakes, even the poisonous ones, because they do things like eat rats. So while he was doing that, I'm online going, okay, what does a copperhead look like again? And I was like, okay, that was not a copperhead. Like once I pulled up a picture of a copperhead, I should have like a picture of a copperhead on my wall. So I'm like, yep, different markings. Okay. And then we figured out it was a gray rat snake. So that was super exciting. And every so often I just end up with the outside inside. And it's funny because the vibe I want in my house is like, you feel like you're outside, but you're inside and blah, blah, blah. That would be like my dream house. This house is not well suited to that because it's built into the side of a hill out of cinder block, like a little bunker. But for a brief minute, I had a taste of what that would be like with the snake brought in by the cats. That's country living for you guys. We also have reunited the sheep. So the female sheep and the male sheep have been separate. And we brought the girl sheep over to the other property where the boy sheep are and had them in 2 paddocks so they could look at each other longingly. Immediately what happened is Timmy decided he had zero regard for whether or not he got shocked to get to the girl sheep. So he ran straight over to the girl sheep, started chasing them around like a lovesick little 14-year-old boy sheep that he is. And, you know, merry chases ensued. Luckily, the livestock guardian dogs were on the other side. And Floki was like, dude, chill out. Dude, chill. I kind of want to be over there, but I'm not going through this fence, right? So we eventually got him separated again back into his right paddock, and then everybody stayed where they were supposed to be. We left them like that for a day. And then yesterday, we opened up the 2 paddocks so that the 2 paddocks are now open, but there's lots of space. And immediately what happened is one of my livestock guardian dogs, Max, started chasing the sheep. Not barking, not aggressive, but chasing them. And they ran because they're like, what the heck is this? This looks like a big scary dog, even though they know, like, they have been around each other before. So it wasn't like they were totally foreign to each other. So Max starts chasing him. I'm like, if I lose a sheep because I've just done this wrong, somehow I'm going to be upset. So I asked Tactical to come over, which was what I was trying to avoid it because he has pneumonia right now and I don't really want him up and about. And he came over prepared to shoot something if we needed to. And by the time he was there, I had gotten the LGDs because once one dog starts chasing things, the other one is, I'd gotten them to stop. and they were over here, and the sheep were over there, and then Floki and Timmy were chasing the girls trying to get laid, basically. And some of that happened with Bruni got it, by the way. Yeah, the people who I bought the sheep from. Brunhilde got caught. Just FYI, we might have little baby Brunhildes later, which would be fine. And everybody else didn't get caught. I don't think they're really in estrus right now, although she may be. But it was sort of an instant reaction to reunification. And then Tactical and I were both there. The chasing stopped as everybody became aware they could be in the same pasture together. And I'm sure more getting it on has happened. Yeah, baby Brunhildes are on the way. 6 months from now, if it took. And then I let the dogs back in, and Max tried to chase a couple times, and then we stopped him. And then he just sat there and watched and moped. And then what he really wanted to do was smell their rear ends. So once everybody calmed down, he went up to Brunhilde and smelled her butt. And then she chased him away, and it all worked fine. So everybody's getting along now. And I haven't been over this morning to see how things are. My biggest issue was that we have about an 8-week-old. I didn't want her getting hurt. What the girl sheep are doing is keeping everybody away from the 8-week-old. So there's a mama protection thing going on there, but that'll work. So the hope is that, 6 to 7 months from now, the ones who can get pregnant will get pregnant, and we will have more baby sheep. That's the goal with this whole thing. And it's a little early, obviously early for Cloudy to be bred, but she's still hanging out with her mom. But she's old enough that she doesn't necessarily have to be accessing mother's milk. She's eating pasture fine. She's got a really good form, so she's been doing well. But that's part of the crazy on our homestead. And I was originally planning to schedule when everybody gets pregnant. I might let it rip, and things are born when they're born. We'll see. That's how Doc Barry's doing it. My flock's a lot smaller than his, and our land area is a lot smaller than his. So it just sort of depends. That being said, we're going to have to mow over here because I didn't run the sheep through the rest of my land. And we have some grass that's perfect grazing height, but they are not here. So I'm pretty sure we're going to graze it with a mower. The pigs are gone completely. So when Mike Vertrice came to pick up the pigs, one would get on the trailer and one would not. And he went off with the one who would. And the one who wouldn't just kept not getting, he would get all but 1 foot into the trailer. He was just not having it. And his alternative plan was that he was going to become dog food, which, would be fine. He's uncut, so I didn't want to eat the meat because I taste that flavor. And the other day, he got in. Tracy got the door shut. I think canned peaches and apples were involved. He got mad about it, but whatever. He was closed in. And that was that yesterday? It was Wednesday. Wednesday was a day my Wednesday was so overbooked. It was nuts. And then the pig finally got in the trailer. And I texted Mike and I was like, hey, LB's in that trailer. Am I driving or are you picking him up? Because one of us was going to do it. And I was like, whatever. My day has been crazy, but I will still drive this thing 2 hours away if I need to. And Mike's like, I'm already on my way. So LB was reunited with Lady Pig. I have a picture of them all happy to see each other. And they have also started to do the necessary activities to make new pigs, from what I understand. So that's pretty cool. And they are going to be in 10-acre rotating paddocks, which is way better than what I can give them here. So, and if they are unsuccessful in reproduction, they will become food. So that's because that's how a homestead works. This morning, we had a bunny escape. So I have 2 bunnies that have done 2 litters. We have a total of 13 babies who made it through all the freeze and everything. And this morning, one of the youngest ones got out through the cage cracks, and Tactical managed to keep the dog from getting it. So it is back in the cage, but 13 rabbits in our future. So 13 rabbit futures. And it's time to breed one of them again. So some breeders go 2 weeks after the babies are born, they breed the rabbits again. I don't do that. I'm waiting 4 weeks on these just to have a little bit more recovery time for mom. But I do want to have some decent rabbit production as a result of this, though. we're going to have to build more rabbit infrastructure. And I'll talk more about that under infrastructure, but they're doing great. They're super. Now that I figured out, don't overfeed your rabbits so they don't get too fat to reproduce. We are doing fine. They like super successful. Both of my bucks are successful at making litters, so none of them are getting graduated. And I have 1 or 2 rabbits from the winter one that was born right before it went -0 here. I have 2 rabbits from that. 1 is female, 1 is male. The male's getting processed. The female, I'm deciding if I want to keep her. If I do, she can only mate to the white buck because her father is the other buck. And the reason I'm thinking of keeping her is she lived through all that, which means she's super robust. So I'm probably going to keep her. And then we will have 3 rabbits producing litters. Okay. So that's kind of cool. So finally, my dream of raw dog food is coming to fruition. I've already talked about the baby chicks. Also, Steve Eversole found a source for feed that is not locally produced, but it is of the quality I'm looking for in Watertown. So I'm planning to head out there and get some duck feed and some other feed. Hopefully they have chicken grower feed. My issue continues to be that non-soy protein sources want to be fish, and I don't like fishy flavored chicken meat, and I can taste it. So I'm going to check out the ingredients and do the best I can do. I also at Self-Reliance Festival was given some local grain so I can mix some of my own feed. And I'm going to look into doing that at least for the last 2 weeks of these, because I don't mind the fish protein up until about 2 weeks before harvest. But by then it's time to switch over. So I'm going to see about finishing them out with feed I mix if I have to do that, just because of I'm a super taster, so I taste things other people don't. Next segment is grow. This is where we talk about all the plants that are growing on the Holler Homestead. Carrie came over and got the aquaponics beds in place up for the new aquaponics system that the new aquaponics system that has been in the works for a year now. And I was talking to Tactical yesterday about what else to order to finish it out. We're actually really close to being able to finish it. We also have a solar build we're doing as part of the LFTN spring workshop that requires pre-work in order to be able to do that all the way at the spring workshop. So, you know, the aquaponics beds are getting done as they can get done. We're to the point where we need to drill holes, put bulkheads in, run pipes, put the pond liner in, and build up the side, and then we can start cycling the water. So it's close, but that's probably at least 2 days of work, maybe more. It depends on if I need to dig that pond out. And so I need to order bulkheads, make sure we have all the PVC fittings we want, and get the pond liner in, get the pond actually built. I think all of that will be awesome. Super Tasters Unite. That's right. Super Tasters Unite. I didn't really know I was one until I realized I taste things other people don't. So, and I think super tasters are really super smellers. So I think as I get older, the smelly smell may not work as well because of age. We'll see. Anyway, so that's pretty cool. As a result, I don't have as much. I have another aquaponics system under Taj Mahal that will move once the one on the hillside's up and running. And I've got lettuces and things in there, and they made it through the freeze fine. My ebb and flow bed got knocked out, everything but the comfrey, and 1 sage plant died, and I was rooting a sage plant in there during the super freeze in December, which for me is not the end of the world because I'm going to be moving that media to the upper aquaponics system when the time comes. And so for me, it was just kind of an easier emotional thing. I don't have to kill a bunch of plants because I've got a sage plant that's been in one of my wicking beds for that since the first year it was put in. And that sage plant I'm hoping to transplant. But I have been taking cuttings off it on and off for years. And one of the best ways to root cuttings is just to cut them and put them in that ebb and flow bed, and the water comes up and goes down and comes up and goes down, and you get roots. It's really cool. Brassicas made it through the freeze. So when the deep freeze was coming, we got down to the low 20s, 21 to 24 degrees. And this freeze lasted for about 3 days. So it was, it was warmer during the day, but cold at night. And a lot of people covered their plants to keep them from getting burnt. It was perfect timing to make sure we don't get fruit set this year on our trees for most of the fruit trees that we have. My apples and pears haven't bloomed yet, so those actually might do it, but I'm going to pull the fruit off because this is their first year here. So I'm just going to let them develop roots anyway. So for me, it didn't matter. But totally wiped out the peaches and the plums and all those things. And the cherries here have not bloomed, and I don't expect them to bloom at all because they came off of basically bare root plants that were dug out of the ground coming off of another really old tree. So we'll see. But I just let stuff rip. I didn't mulch anything more than it was already mulch. I didn't cover anything. I was like, whatever dies, dies. Like I don't have time right now. And the ones that live will be really good plants. So the brassicas made it through, which means the broccoli, the cauliflower, and the cabbage all froze basically solid, and they're still with us today. And they're not burnt. The peas are looking okay. The onions are up. Like basically most things didn't die. I had just put some rosemary plants in that I got at the store who had only been in the ground about a week. And one or two of those look like they're going to die and the rest look fine. There's a lesson there. Now, it is nice to be able to protect your plants from the freeze, but my lettuces were in the aquaponics system, which means Taj Mahal's over them. So they didn't get like an assault of frost. It kind of keeps things from developing frost underneath it. And they did fine, but they had a little leaf burn. So I think if they had been outside and exposed to frost, that would have been bad. The strawberry plants are blooming, and so I'm expecting fruit from them in the next 2 to 4 weeks, probably. And they're setting fruit, and there's bees everywhere. The bees are moving, by the way. They're moving this weekend off of my property because I'm allergic to them. So my bee mentor, Ken, is taking them to another location. We traded for him to do that. And I have a whole bunch of bee equipment. So I'm going to keep my bee suit and my smoker just in case I ever have to do something here unrelated to my actual bees. Like if a bee moves into my eaves and I need to deal with it, it would be nice to have that. The onions are up, as I said. So my onions I did from bulbs, and they're about 12 inches tall. And I have not traditionally had great luck growing big onions. So we'll see. The ground I put them in is the bed that we had a homestead boot camp person come out. I was showing her how to put a garden bed in. So we put a garden bed in. It was a lot of work, but it's like the ground is really nice from that. So hopefully they'll do great there. And then my seedlings are doing great. I have them in trays with planters on the trays, and I water from underneath. So I put water in the tray and it wicks up. And then I have them on a timer with a heat lamp and lights going, I think it's 18 on, right? So I've got peppers in there. I've got dill in there. I've got nasturtia that are ready to transplant. And I may transplant some of those this weekend. We'll see. We have one more frosty thing happening next week, like at 34, which means 30 here. And they're just ready to go out. The peppers, of course, are not ready to go out, but it's about time to transplant them into bigger pots. Those I don't put out till May, but we start them pretty early because germination takes forever on the peppers. Some of my stuff didn't germinate because I was using whatever seeds I had. And I still haven't started my tomatoes. So April 1st is tomorrow. That's my last start your tomato date. So I'm going to have to stop all this stuff and actually put tomato seeds into pots, which I will do. Those are going to my hydroponic system. So I'm not as worried about the speed. Once they germinate and get about a week old, and then I put them in my hydroponic system, they tend to explode in growth. And we have had some late hanging on freezes. It's not late, but this has been one of those years where the later freezes are happening. So I have actually put them out at the end of April before and had to take them back in because once again, it was getting down near 32 degrees. Last year, I was late with the tomatoes too. We did great on them. So that's the state of everything that is growing here at the Holler Homestead. Of course, my blueberries are blooming out. We lost the hydrangea that we put in the food and flower forest. I'm going to put 2 new hydrangeas in this year, probably soon-ish. I'm going to go in the minute they have them available. I'm going to buy a couple of hydrangea, put them in there. I have one other hydrangea that I planted near my house that was coming back, and then we had that freeze and it beat it back and it might have killed it. We'll see. That one I'm not as worried about replacing because I'm probably going to do a raised bed there. But if it lives, then it's probably going to be there for the rest of its life because it will have made it through one of the hardest years since I lived here. There's only been one other harder year to overwinter at my place. So that's happening. By the way, Tactical never did come to get Cece out of here, but she's done puking all over my shoes. So also, I think I need some new shoes. Holler Neighbors Community is next. And that's where we talk about the network. And so this segment I could go on because Self-Reliance Festival was this weekend. I could go on forever. Like Ryan Steva made a solar water heater for the hand washing station at SRF. That's from our community. That's the kind of thing that happens when we have community. So many people helped make Self-Reliance Festival awesome, including the re-erection of the giant circus tent that got knocked over. And I should go on and on and on. Like all the speakers who came, all of it, the volunteers who helped, the staff who worked extra hard this time. For me, the event personally was the first time, it's the 5th event, the first time for Self-Reliance Festival where I had time to stop and talk to people. And because of that, when it was late at night and I would have usually been dead and I'm going home, I was like, I'm actually still awake and still able to talk to people. So that was because the community came out and helped. And that's because, I mean, many of you listening to this were there making sure that we were successful. And it was one of the best vibes of any of the SRFs that we've had. The first one had a very similar vibe. There's always an element of people who come there because they're afraid, and that's fair. And one of the things we want to achieve at the event is that they find some solutions or some next steps to take as a result of coming to this, and they find connections. And that means, and so that they can leave less afraid, right? And equipped to take steps to make their own lives better. The last 2 Self-Reliance festivals, the percentage of people afraid was much higher than this one, or they became very unafraid after making it through a night of tornadic activity in the campground. I'm not sure, but everybody was very solutions focused. And although I had plenty of conversations about, I just don't know what to do, or it's overwhelming, I can't believe things are going this way, right? Which there's an element of mourning when you think the country works as we are taught it works in grade school. Best nation in the world, the political system, best political system in the world, like this magical thing where you can vote and it actually changes outcomes, right? When you become disillusioned to how that works, and you start seeing the divisiveness that's happening both through mainstream media and other powerful opiners and political figures. And when you really see it, the first reaction is fear usually, or disgust. But then there's this period of mourning where you have bought into the American dream. You've bought in to this concept that we can all come together from different backgrounds, races, religions, and have the most prosperity possible through open exchange and through all of the things, free enterprise, and through self-organized communities and all of these concepts that we think is happening that's inhibited by the system itself that was put into place to ensure that we could do these things. And that it's hard to, like, it's a way of life, and it's your home that's being attacked. And so we've had a lot of people in the middle of mourning that come to SRF and not sure what to do. And they're mad and they're raging and they're sad and they're hopeless. And this time, anybody who was in that state, I think quickly came out of it or hid it really well, because while I did have those conversations, most people were like, and I'm so glad I came here because I met somebody who lives near me and we're going to work together and I'm going to start taking steps. And there were tangible steps to take. And I think that's super important. So that's all because of the community who is attracted to Self-Reliance Festival through Special Operations Equipment and John Willis, through the Survival Podcast with Jack Spirko, through Bear Independent, through Joel Riles, through LFTN, through the Freedom Cells. Like all of those people who come to SRF are activated, motivated to start taking steps. And if they aren't, they help the people they meet who are in that other depressing place. And I think that's what made the festival successful this time. It wasn't me. It wasn't John. It wasn't Bear. It wasn't CJ. All of us were resources. It wasn't Tag. Tag had a whole bunch of people there. He also, his community is another one. It was that we unified around the concept of taking steps to improve our situation no matter what happens. And that's super exciting. I came home to a kitchen surprise. So when I left, I still didn't really have a functional kitchen. And apparently, the minute my car left the driveway, thanks for the super chat asterisk. This is my anonymous super chatter. I think you super chatted us yesterday too. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. There are always two, but not this time. So anyway, the minute I left the driveway, having told Tactical, who was not feeling well, please stop working on my kitchen. Just like chill out. It's not that important to me. When I come back, I'll get it back together within about a week and it'll be fine. It'll be ready for spring workshop. He said he waited till my fourth tire was off the property, sent a text down to the Eversoles, and they all came down, stained my kitchen island, put the faucet in. So I had a functional kitchen when I came home. And I was very thankful for that. He is in a little bit of trouble because he also developed pneumonia, and I think part of why he developed pneumonia is he kept working when he had a cold. So please feel free to ridicule the redneck about that. But that kitchen surprise was great, and my kitchen looks great. I'll pull it up and present it so you can see it. So in the show like thumbnail, if you're seeing this on Facebook or YouTube, you'll see a picture of my kitchen, and I just keep putting pictures of the kitchen in that thing because it's kind of a progression. You'll see it every time. It's a little bit better. It's a little bit better. It's a stepwise progression. So here we are. That's the bar. This bar here was just plywood and the 2x4s were unstained. So they stained it. And then you can see the sink has the faucet in now. And that's just, polyurethane. We've got these restaurant tables here. That wall is open. Actually, right now, as I speak, there's an electrician here doing work, which is why that wall was still open. So he'd have access so that I can close that wall. I'm going to hang another piece of plywood there, and then we're drywalling over the top of it. There's a reason why, guys, but I'm not going to go into it. And that's sort of the final thing. So none of these have plugs yet. We'll have all of that done today. And then I am replacing that window that replaces from the outside. So from here, I got home and I was here, right? And then now, if you looked at my kitchen right now, that back counter area would have all of my kitchen stuff piled on it because I don't know where to put it away because I don't have drawers. So Mama Sauce and I decided I was going to put everything in the kitchen I want in the kitchen, everything that's for events that we do over here, and we'll put those in bins, and the bins come in and go out when we do a big event like spring workshop. And then everything I don't want goes to the Goodwill. So every time I picked something up and I was like, you annoy me, it went into the Goodwill thing because I'm like, literally, I can do without most of these things. I have some pretty sketchy looking cutting boards. So thanks to the Holler neighbors for the kitchen surprise. We also have somebody coming through and camping here on their way home from SRF who made a pre-arrangement with a Holler neighbor. And as a result, we are smoking the ham cut. It's like smoking a butt for pork. So it's pork that we raised here. We're going to smoke it, but it is the ham, so it's even bigger. And then doing green beans that we raised here. Cornbread's being made by the way, I'm not cooking this. Tracy is cooking all of this because I am focused on post SRF follow-up, pre-spring workshop, and getting my kitchen back together. So she's like, I'll cook and host. I was like, great. And we're making potato salad, and I have to buy potatoes at the store for the potato salad. That's the only thing. So all of that's happening. And so we're just going to have a big old Holler neighbor gathering. It's going to be cool. That happens here from time to time. And I'm really thankful Tracy's hosting. She got the outhouse over there all set up so that there's a place to go. And I have an outdoor shower here that we can hook up if they want it. But they're just camping through on their way home on a long drive. Next segment is infrastructure. This is where we talk about the things that we're building on the homestead. Yesterday, Steve started putting the chicken coop up in what's going to be my composting pasture. And that involved cutting a fence and leveling up the floor and setting some posts. He wanted to get it done before the rains came today. The rains are here. Apparently, we're having possibility of tornadic activity today, so I'm not driving to Camden. And it'll rain it'll make the concrete all set up really nicely. So I'm excited to see that as it go. That will start happening very quickly because he already pre-built the chicken coop over at base camp. We have more rabbits than cages. We have other cages we need to put out. Usually we build a frame for them. We're going to do something temporary because somebody has pneumonia. So what's happening with infrastructure right now is Tactical has big plans, and he doesn't like to sit idle. And so when he got back from SRF, he started doing things. And his chest hurts from pneumonia. And I keep seeing him holding his chest. And I was like, you know what? Let me talk to you about pneumonia because I've had it before. And I kept going through it. If you keep pushing through your pneumonia, including driving places and just being there, by the way, it takes longer to recover. So you turn what could be a week of rest and then you'll be fine or you'll be feeling better, goes into a 6-week recovery. So your choice right now is to chill the F out, or you're going to have a long recovery. Which one's it going to be? And he decided, so finally he took yesterday off. I was like, just tell me what needs to be done and I will do it. And it will be slower and different than what you usually do. And right before SRF, I told him, I want to trade jobs where you do like what I do, which is like cooking and dishes and a whole bunch of other stuff for the animals for a week so that we're cross-trained. And he was like, yeah, I was going to talk about that. I think that's a good idea. So then the universe said, you will do it the week after Self-Reliance Festival. So Mama Sauce and I went up to the top of the hill, and it was way at the top of the hill to get all of the posts down for the sheep. We're going to go finish putting up their next paddock because they need to move to a new paddock on Saturday. That's tomorrow. There's probably an hour or two of work to do there. And the rabbit cage empire that he wanted to build ain't happening right now because he's not supposed to be building anything. So I said, let's talk about a temporary solution. And he groaned because temporary solutions turn permanent on the homestead. And I was like, no, really, it's on my list and I want it too. But we are going to put those up on cinder blocks that we have with cement trays under them to catch the poop for now. And then we will talk about the timeline after my spring workshop and the design for a better rabbit situation. Because at first we just had 4 cages and we were kind of slowly doing this rabbit thing. But now I'm all in on rabbits because I want to move the dogs to a raw diet. And that means producing lots of rabbits. So, yeah, so that's happening there. And it's all because of the pneumonia. Now, yesterday he did a really good job of chilling out, and he did have to walk over to the other pasture, but I think he did a great job. I think today he's doing an okay job of chilling out. I will follow up after this to hopefully empower him to continue chilling out. The problem is the electrician's here, and so then Tactical always ends up running up and down the hill getting stuff when that happens. But the electrician is aware that he has pneumonia, and watch out for the vomit on my floor. Somebody's walked in. And I don't know what she's doing. Okay. Anyway, so Mama Sauce just walked in and did this. Shh, like, don't say anything. I just saw Mama Sauce come in. So it was very distracting. Anyway, so we're trying to keep him light duty today too, and the electrician's working with me on that. So that's what's up with infrastructure right now. We are going to have to mow the alleyways that we put in the food forest for the sheep to rotate through this time. But the chicken tractor is going to go through there too. So I don't want to mow it too low because probably within 2 weeks, we're going to have chicks out on pasture. I try to get them out as quickly as possible It kind of depends on the weather. I get to repair the chicken tractor too in advance of this all happening. And we need to repair the plucker. So here's what's going to happen with the chickens and the infrastructure. I'm going to do a chicken processing workshop in June when they're done. Okay. Except I'm waiting 1 week of having baby chicks before we schedule that because I want to make sure we have chickens for it. And usually the first week is the first amount of time. It's weird. So that those tickets will go on sale. $95 includes you go home with a chicken and the chicken processing guide I wrote. And that'll happen 2 weeks into raising the chicks. They go out on pasture if we can, unless it's weird and cold and wet. And then we just rotate them through and they eat the grass. So, and we augment them with food. So that's all happening. And we have the infrastructure in place, but my plucker needs some upgrades. And the tractor has some broken parts that we're going to have to fix. It's not a big deal. Tactical had this idea he was going to make a whole new chicken tractor, but then he got pneumonia, so he's not. Next segment is finances, where we talk about the money on the homestead. Okay, we have produced 13 baby rabbits. They have made it, all of them are at least 2 weeks old, which means anybody who was going to die because they weren't strong died. That equals about 26 days of raw dog food for one of my dogs. There are multiple dogs here. And that's about $50 in savings from the crappy, like the store feed that I feed my dogs, maybe 60 now. So it's a bag of food for us. And that means a couple things. One, we need a much bigger rabbit growing operation if we're going to feed our dogs raw, or I need to add chickens or something else, which I may do. And the 13 rabbits from 2 does was enough for one dog for 1 month. And it took a month to produce that. So you see how that's going to work, right? I've got 4 dogs to feed. So I basically need double 2 rabbits producing babies for 1 dog right now. And that means that I need 8 rabbits producing babies for 4 dogs. Now that may change over time. And if we get extras, we put them in the freezer and feed from that. Plus I have like every innard of any animal that has gotten processed is going to dogs as well. So it's not a 1-to-1 thing, but that's important to think about if you're thinking of going to a raw diet and you want to produce it here, right, on your property, right? Now they can eat other raw things and that's great. But if rabbits are your big plan, for me, for the size dogs I have, I need 2 does producing per 1 dog right now. My littler, we have 2 littler dogs that may not need that. So we may only need 6 for the 4 dogs. There are actually 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 dogs actually. So 10. Because if I do the LGDs, it's 10. And that's just something to think about if you're looking to produce more of your own feed. From my perspective, the 2 does have just reduced my feed costs by 1/5 then, right? Because I'm handling 1 dog out of 5. It's not really mine. This is combined dog food costs between Tactical and me by 1/5. It may be 25% because, as I said, the 2 little dogs might actually share a pair of rabbits. And that's not bad. Like, that's how you chip away at it, right? So when you decide to do something to have a homestead, your decision is, does my homestead work for me or do I work to pay for my homestead? This is one way your homestead starts paying for itself, is if you're producing fodder and food from your homestead for your livestock or for your animals. That's one more way that it is starting to pay for itself. So that's where we're at. Anyway, that's the end of the Homestead Happenings segment. I am going to stay on for some Q&A with the live stream audience right after this. There'll be a 5-second delay. If you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can support it in 2 ways. 1, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. 2, consider becoming a member. That's all over at livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, guys, go out and make it a great week. Okay, I have 4 starred questions, and I'm just going to go through them. Folks in the live stream, if you have other questions, feel free to ask. I do need to remember not to step on the giant pile of puke in my shoe on the way out of my studio. So I'm just saying that out loud so that I remember. It's been so I woke up this morning to the sound that we all feared. It's a cat heaving. And I hear splat, which means a cat has heaved. And then I hear heaving again. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go back to sleep. I was like, oh, second. Okay, so if I get this cat out, maybe I won't have all the puke. Second splat. And then I chased the cat out of my house and didn't step on the piles. And I cleaned up the piles. And now apparently Cece decided to eat grass and puke on my shoe. Anyway, here there is a road that is shut down twice a year for snake migration. 'Tis the season. Yeah, the snake thing that happened here was hilarious. And I was just like, it reminds me of a time where I lived on the homestead for a year or two. Yeah, we're not bringing Holler Neighbors on this time, Steve, because I'm trying to wrap up and get back out to these chicks. But thank you. Usually I would want to have you on, and you have a lot to say. Next week, we're going to have you talk about the coop, Steve. So what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So I go into my pump house, and I open the door. And the stupid ants had made a stupid nest in the stupid door, and the entire ant nest fell on my hair. And my hair was not as long as it is now, but it was probably, long enough below shoulder. And I had all these larvae and Holler Roost. Yeah, the Holler Roost update next week. All up in my hair, and I just walk out. And my friend is like batting at my hair, and I just walk away. I didn't scream, nothing. And I thought to myself at that moment, if this had happened 2 years ago, I would have screamed and been really grossed out. And now I'm like, well, there's ants in my hair. Now there's ants in my hair. Oh, well. Next one. Nicole needs a new pair of shoes. Roll the dice. Yeah. Did anybody get bingo with that? I actually already have the new pair of shoes because I bought 2 pair of shoes before SRF because all of my shoes were starting to look a little like they were going to fall apart. And when you walk on gravel, like you do on the compound there, and I do a lot of walking on the compound, then my shoes start falling apart there. So I was just like, I'll just have some new shoes. Yeah, I don't need a shoe fund. I'm good. I already had a mason jar with stuff in it for shoes. So we're good to go. Yeah. Nicola Rescue, slow, steady, wins the race. That's sort of the thing. So one of the things so first of all, 2 people involved. We need an LFTN live stream bingo cards. Yeah, well, Letty just volunteered to make bingo cards, I think. GoFundMe shoes. One of the things about this homestead is I had a partner who did do some helping, but was not totally all in or on the homestead stuff. And so I did most of the homestead work here and by myself. And so having the Holler Neighbors come and then having Tactical really become more of a homestead partner in this project has shown me what it's like to have 2 people who are working hard on the homestead versus 1 person. And I can say this, it's totally possible when you're 1 person to do it. You need to choose what you really want to do, and you can do more when there are 2 people. Having 2 people who know how everything works is huge, because if one goes down, the other knows what to do. And it may not be their primary business unit, so to speak, but they're able to fill in. So like when I've gotten sick, Tactical can make sure plants are staying alive. And if there's food preservation that has to have something done to it, he can do it, right? If I can't do it for whatever. Yeah. Virtual SRF bingo cards for October. I think that's a great idea. But having me here when he went down is also good. So each one of us has the areas where we focus, and we're really efficient at that. And we have a system, and it's our system. And we show the other person our system, and they're like, I would do it differently, but whatever. When one goes down, we have to integrate into the other person's system. And then because males and females are a little bit different in physicality and how we like, our balance is different. I have a lower center of gravity. He lifts way more than I do. So some of the ways he has things set up, I would never set up that way. Like how we get water to the sheep, I would never do, because it requires a lot of upper body strength, and I can do it, but I'm slow at it. And he just grabs it and does the thing, and it's done. And I'm like, I need 2 hands, and I need to make sure my core is tight so I don't mess up my lower back, and I do all this stuff. I would have a 3-gallon water if I was going to carry it. I probably would have taught them that they can drink city water, because we're bringing spring water from here over there, and there's city water over there we could refill, and I probably would have trained them, but I don't want to shock their gut biome by putting city water in there now. So that just means when either one of us is filling in on the other one, that person is slow. Okay, I have 2 more questions and then we're wrapping, if there are no more questions. Do the dogs need more fat than just rabbits, or is that humans only? Carbs needed it all. Say sweet potatoes. Think about what a dog eats in the wild. So first of all, the rabbit fat thing for humans may not be true. People say you'll starve from not having enough fat from rabbits. If you raise your rabbits and they develop fat, then they have fat, then that's not an issue. That was based on something that happened to rabbits who were also not getting enough to eat. So they were very, very lean. I don't know I don't know if anybody's done any research since then or what the deal is. So I'm not claiming you can only live on rabbits for sure, but I know that rabbits get fat on them from processing fat rabbits. And that's fat if you eat the fat. I know pigs make fat really well, though. So dogs, from what I understand, and I was talking to Joel Riles about this because Jack is feeding his dogs a raw diet, a lot of which he's buying at the store, like raw meat, and he's augmenting with some fat and some other stuff. And I was like, well, I just want to grow the food. Can I just feed them on rabbits? And Joel said, yes, as long as they're eating all of the rabbit. So the intestines, the stomach, all of it, because part of how they get vitamins in the wild is they eat the intestines and the guts. And he said when a dog or a canine kills something in the woods, it starts by eating through the butt up. So it eats the large intestine, it eats the small intestine, it eats all the innards and the organs, and then it eats the meat. So if you're feeding your dog a raw diet without the internals, then you need to find a way to augment that because it's missing some of the most important nutrients that it would get. And so he said what he does with chickens is just gives it a chicken every other day, or he'll cut them in half and give one half and then the next half, that sort of thing. And sometimes the dogs will just carry it around and let it get smelly and yucky and rot a little bit, and that's okay too. The deal is, if you're going to feed them that way, you want to have that in a location where you're willing to smell the smell. So my plan with the rabbits is they will get other things, and I will watch their condition very carefully, but I'm going to give them a half a rabbit at a time every day or a rabbit every other day and see, do they lose weight or gain weight? And I can still augment with kibble if I need to. We're not going to go straight from kibble to the raw diet. We're going to ease them on. But they're going to get all of the animal, including the fur. I'm not even going to skin it. I'm going to let them figure that out. I'm glad where we live where it freezes for months. I think that's related to snakes. Anyway, that is my last question for today, guys. Thanks for joining in. I'm sorry I didn't bring the Holler neighbors on today. I've got some things going on here. I want to make sure these chicks make it through their first day really well, and staying on a live stream more than an hour today seemed like a bad idea. So we'll see you next week. Make it a great week.